You might be one of Australia's oldest users of the computer, actually, if not the oldest. What do you use your computer for?
Nothing special, just normally use it for contacting people or looking up bank accounts and all that sort of thing. General purpose. It's a general purpose. Probably 101st. That's 105th birthday. My name is Colin Wagener, and I was born in Adelaide on December the 2nd, 1917. In those years, the parents named their children after a battle of World War I, so I was called Lenz, L-E-N-S, Colin Lenz Wagener. My parents were very hard-working. They had a shop, and they had a machine shop, and they had a bicycle shop. His name was William Wagener, and he tried everything to make money. He was a hard worker. Yeah, well, see, after the First World War, when the soldiers came back, they had broader sensitivity, get things done. I had two sisters. I got all right with them. They were about 10 years older than me. I was a late one starter. But one was a wild one, and she was an icon of the Roaring Twenties. She drove my parents up the wall there with all their carriage on. So I do remember the opening of Canberra in 1927. I have an official invitation to the opening of Parliament House. My parents took me there in a car, in a 1925 Studebaker. It was very difficult. We had to go through the Coorong. The Coorong didn't have any roads properly then, just track, down to Mount Gambier and across the mountain range to Canberra. There couldn't be too many camping in Canberra at the caravan park because one water tap did the lot. The tap was frozen over until about 9 o'clock in the morning, so there must have been cold nights. And all the supplies that we had to get were from Queen Anne. There was nothing open in Canberra. They were still building it. They're getting the official buildings done. Parliament House, they just got that done in time. My parents, I remember them saying to me, "We're taking you so you'll remember to tell it in years to come." And here I am telling it in years to come. I remember all the guards were there for the opening in 3 rows, and one of them fainted, and nobody did anything about it for a while till they got him out of it. So I guess our World War I soldiers being reused again. Three planes flew overhead. I heard one of them crashed, and the pilot was killed. My father took me to see the wreckage of the plane. It looked quite simple, there's not much of it. But it was enough to kill somebody. 2 twin-wing planes. I just remember those little bits about it. This radio was built in 1924 for my father. It was his first wireless set, and I've still got it, and it still works. And it was from this set that I became interested in radios. That's a crystal detector for it. And these are the coils so you can get different stations. It's quite a primitive set, but there's 2 valves. You can see the valves in there. They amplify the signals that come in. And from there I went to make my own radio sets. I reckon about 8 or 9 years of age. And I got books from, magazines from England, and they had crystal sets. And I made a crystal set, and I made a 1 valve set and a 2 valve set, all short wave, and I'd be in my room with the earphones on about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, listening to overseas stations.
Hot, steam, dark, silvery moon is shining through the trees. Cast to me.
And I think it cost £15. It was a hell of a lot of money. Price of a push bike. My father had a shop down on the Glen Osmond Road. It was close to Parkside, and had a big garage door on the front of which he opened up, and there was a radio in it, a 7-valve all-wave super heterodyne with a big speaker on it, And the chaps, and a lot of people used to come along with their chairs and listen to the radio till about 2 o'clock in the morning.
As he whips that one down towards third man, and Bradman moves in. And
that was the cricket in England that they would listen to. Over Parkside, this was during the Depression. But the interesting part about that radio was made by me. And I was about 14 at the time. The day I turned 16, I went in the register of motor vehicles and got a licence to ride a car or drive a motor vehicle. And my parents gave me a motorbike, a second-hand one, and I rode it to school. And all my schoolmates were looking at a beautiful chrome tank. They thought how lovely it was. But the headmaster had other ideas here from the horse and buggy stage, and he told me never to bring it near the school again. So that was the end of that. I didn't. During that bit between the Great Depression and the start of World War II, I wanted a sports car, and they were unobtainable. So the only thing to do with me was to make one, which I did. I made a sports car with a lot of help from professionals. It would have been cheaper if my parents had gone and bought me one, if they could have. 4 of us sort of clubbed together because very, very few people had motor cars, particularly young kids. It was very rare to have a sports car, and we sort of found one another, and the 4 of us were, made friends, and we all joined the army together. Saw it coming, we reckoned we'd go to them before they came and got us. That's what it amounted to. We joined the army signals. There was vacancies for signallers, and we just went in part-time until 1939, and then when the war started, we went in full-time. One was killed in the Middle East with a bomb. The second one was died as a POW in Singapore. And Steve Tillett, he picked up a bullet in New Guinea, and he's flown back to Australia more dead than alive, but he survived and he got better again. So really, 2 of us survived. Just luck. You either got it or you haven't got it. Yes, I was sent to Woodside Military Camp, and from there I was sent to Loveday. I had a good background of radio, knew all about it. They wanted to establish a radio link between Darwin and Adelaide, and I did. And then I rigged up another reel to see if I could get Adelaide, and I did. So we had a very precarious radio link between Darwin and Adelaide. And they said, from now on, you're an instructor. I said, I don't know anything about instructing. They said, well, you've got 3 stripes, go out and earn them. So that was the end of that. When you're in the army, you just walk along a tightrope and you don't fall off. You do exactly what they tell you to do. So that was 8 o'clock in the morning. And I said, can I have 4 hours leave? And they said, yes, you can have leave till 12 o'clock. And I raced around and got my future-to-be wife. She was from Menindee, up on the Darling River. Yeah, well, I met her because I was one of the very, very few young kids who had a motor car. We were fair game. I said, when we get married, you've got 4 hours to do it. I'll get back to camp. Some of those 4 hours, we went and got married and I got back to camp. And then I went off to Bone to establish the #1 signal training. I think about 12 or 18 months. Because of my qualifications for an instructor, I was sent to the signal office in Townsville, and it was run by girls of about 15. AWARs they were, Australian Women Army Service. They were all good. I had 10 days leave. I came home in that 10 days. I bought a house at St George's, and that provided Peggy with a roof over her head. Yes, I joined the unit then, the operational unit, the 2nd 3rd Anti-Aircraft Regiment, and we were attached to the 9th Division. We were classed as a defensive unit, not an offensive unit. An offensive unit is an infantry, you go looking for trouble. A defensive unit is us, wait for trouble to come to us. We were supplying all the communications. We had it on a troop ship. There was about 2,000 on it. We played chess all the way to Morotai. It was very hot, we were just without no shirts on. I took some photos of the being on board the ship along the way to Borneo. And then another chap took our photos, just myself and the 4 drivers. That's the photo of us on the LST just before we did the landing. That's me, that's our 4 drivers. He said, I want to take your photo. So he found out, he said, I took your photo just in case you didn't make it on the landing, but we did. It wasn't in the harbour there. To get off the boat, we threw rope ladders over the side of the boat. We saw some LSTs, or landing ship tanks, coming in, gradually come in one at a time. And we knew they'd be for us. Rope ladders over the side, we got on the boats. But the LSTs, they went in and were unloaded, and there's a photograph of me coming off. It must be pretty late because we couldn't get off the beach, and we just held the landing that night. We expected the air raids or something, but it never happened. I had a cheap camera with me. If I had an expensive one, I would have got pinched. I had a cheap one, and another chap in the unit also had a cheap one. Similar cameras, and he knew more than I did about developing films. And he said, well, if you go up to the RWF, their reconnaissance unit, that's the ones that take photographs from the air photograph. He said, they've got some material. Here's what to get. And he said, it'll take at least 30 cigarettes to get them. I received a cigarette ration, and that gave me cigarettes, which are very handy to me. 10 cigarettes I'd use to buy an egg with, but the rest I'd use to get photography with. So I went over the handful of cigarettes and put them down the table. I didn't know that. I got it. And we came back and we developed the films at night time. Had to be completely dark, and we had a torch with a red rag over it to see what we were doing. If anybody had turned the light on at the wrong time, we would have lost everything. But they didn't. And we developed films, it was all a jungle developing company sort of thing, and got away with it. We did it. And it was that point there, I thought the war would never end. I'd been in it for 6 years, and the war was just going on and on. And then the atom bomb dropped, and the war suddenly came to an end. I found out in the grapevine. Yeah, I was just pleased it was, I'd made it. But then, of course, came the big thing of surrender. We'd found out that there was a death march, 2,000 Australians were murdered, and we wanted to round up the people who did it. And we did. Sandakan was not far away from where we were at Labuan, and that was where the death marches started from. Most of the garrison from Sandakan had gone inland to Ranau. They murdered them along the way. Someone had to go and pick up the remnants, what was left of the garrison at Sandakan. We sent an LST, a landing ship tank over, and one of our group, a corporal, it was a very good corporal, I gave him my gun, it was a machine gun. I said, if you use it, clean it. They pulled into the harbour at Sandakan. The Japanese, they were all on the wharf waiting There was half a dozen wooden boxes. They're quite heavy, about the size you could lift one up and put on your shoulder and carry along. They had Yokohama Species Bank written on them. We knew they were full of money. So the corporal went and saw this Japanese chap in the tent. He was sitting at a table, the boxes alongside of him, and he was waiting to be greeted by the corporal. The corporal walked in the tent, pointed a gun at him and said, "Get out and join the others." And they were all put on the boat. On the way back, they were put in charge of a private, and the private had other ideas. He told them to put their packs on. And they put their packs on, and he formed them into a ring, and he made them run at a double around the ring in the heat. I don't know how long it went on for, but an officer came down and saw it and stopped it. So that was as close as they got to a death march. It wasn't very much at all. They arrived back at Labuin, and I was there with my camera. I took a photograph on the deck of the ship, and another couple of photographs of them walking along. They were very obedient. They didn't play up at all. We opened the boxes. It was Japanese invasion money, and as the Japanese had lost, the money was worthless. The boys made a big pile of them, and I must have had an honest face because I was given the job of burning it. I had to get a long stick and write. It was like burning phone books. And the next morning, it was just a pile of red ashes. A few years ago, I looked on the computer and I saw the 9th Division had given their version of the surrender, and it was whitewashed. It was never correct. So I was speaking at a meeting, and I gave the real version. Canberra War Memorial checked on me. They said, "Yours is different hours. Can you prove it?" I said, "Yes, I can." So I paid us to prove it. So here's the story of the real story of the surrender. Barber, General Barber, BABA. He was a war criminal, and we wanted him dealt with. I was standing there, and I saw the plane come over the top. I was very pleased to see it, and it landed. I was there with my camera, but there was an official camera standing by. I just thought what a bugger he was. I couldn't, there's not much you could do. Individual, you just look at them as you just don't like them. General Barber was told to come in a plane and sign the surrender document, and they'd put white crosses over the red roundels so we'd know what plane it was. But to me, that was not the case. The white crosses were humiliating. That was the first sign of humiliation. And it was one of our jeeps that took the general to the surrender point. I was told he was told to get in the jeep. Standing alongside him was a big chap with MP on the side of his seat. He was a private. The general, being a general, naturally sat in the front seat of the car. The private told him to go and get in the back. This is the unofficial version that I'm giving. And you can see the private sat in the front seat, and you can see it's real because the general's sitting in the back seat. I spoke to the driver afterwards. I never used that particular driver. He said he took me as fast as he could over every bump he could. The next two photos of the general going into the hut to sign a surrender document. What our side did was to put a mortar gun right alongside of the hut, hard up against it. And he wasn't to know about it. So they marched him in there, and the next photo was taken officially. You'll see him signing a surrender document. And as he signed it, about to put the pen down, a signal was given at the door, and the gun went off, and the hut shook very badly. And I think it didn't do him any good at all. A couple of hours later, I saw him again. He was in a hut, ordinary tent, usual furniture, a long table and two long chairs. He was sitting on a form with his back to me, and there was two lieutenants standing each side of him. Each of them had a foot up on the form alongside him, and one was pointing his finger at him. and he was saying to him, "Who told you to lock up civilians?" And I saw the general just humming his dough. He was still in a state of shell shock. He didn't know. After that, they put him into a compound. The compound that the Japanese made, I saw 2 or 3 of them. They just 4 posts in the ground, probably about 3 metres by 3 metres, wide ending up the side. And they put our troops in them overnight. But he was finding out firsthand what it was like. He was put in one. This is all unofficial. If it rained, he got wet. All the mosquitoes bothered him all night. He wanted to commit suicide, but we wouldn't let him. We put a guard there on a hut, guard him all overnight. We put 2 lights on the thing to show, so they'd watch him, make sure he didn't commit suicide. I had to be very careful because a couple of shots I would have liked to have got that I wasn't game to take. That would have been the general sitting in the pen. I'd love to take the photograph, but I just wasn't game. I thought I might, lose. I better not. So he survived to be tried, and he was hung. But that was not my story. That's someone else's. The plane that General Barber came in, I was sitting there doing, the surplus sort of thing, and a few of the RWF boys, air pilots, thought, well, that's a good way for us to get back to Australia on leave. So they filled the plane up with pilots, and they flew it back to Australia. That's how they got home. It's all unofficial. And they left it on an airstrip and forgot about it. A few years ago, the Australian War Memorial Canberra found the plane. And somehow or other, they got it back to Canberra, probably by road, of course, and they're restoring it. It's going to be an exhibit. We had to wait for the ship to bring us in. We waited and waited and waited. We were very frustrated. And we waited right down to December the 10th, 1945. At that stage, I'd walked over to the airstrip with a handful of cigarettes to get some more material to do some more photos. And I heard the engine of a plane start up, then rev up, and I heard it go down the runway, and I heard the engine suddenly stop, and there's an enormous bang. The plane had crashed. Of course, we all raced out, and the plane had gone into a ditch. Everybody on board was killed instantly, but they seemed to be laying around just at the side of the plane. It was that intense. In about 20 minutes, they were all ashes. You couldn't tell who they were. But I photographed it. At that moment, one of our chaps, he came back. He said, "Come back straight away. 2 ships are coming to take us home." And it was that point in my war career that I had a tragedy on one side and I'd good news in the other. I felt for the people who were going to receive some bad news in Australia, and I just received some good news. I went down, 2 victory ships had come in to take us home. I thought I might have got to change of ration, but it was worse. There was no, they were just cargo ships. 1,500 of us got onto each ship, and there was nowhere to eat, nowhere to sleep. We couldn't care less. We were going home. And it was wonderful to go down the Brisbane River. We thought after 2 or 3 months after the war, Australia would have forgotten about us, but they hadn't. It was the 9th Division coming home, the last one. As we went past the ships in the river, they fired their fire hoses into the air, welcoming us home. There was a troop train standing by to take us home, but the people of Brisbane had other ideas for us. They loaded us into trucks and they drove us slowly down the main street of Brisbane to a ticker tape welcome home. I felt little bits of paper falling on me. We were wet from a shower of rain. We were dirty. We were hungry, but we didn't care. we were going home. And my next thing is, I got the best Christmas present I ever got in my life. It was 10:30 Christmas morning, 1945, when a train pulled at the Adelaide railway station, and I was on it. My father picked me up and brought me home. It was a wonderful feeling to walk up to my front door, knowing I'd never have to go away again.
Yeah.